So, boxing and MMA has always fascinated me. I think fighters with a boxing style often are some of the most entertaining fighters to watch, like Topuria or JDM. So in this video, I've decided to rank every single current UFC champion based on how good their boxing is. And before we get into this video, I just want to clarify some things. These rankings aren't only going to be based on how good a fighter's technique is, it's mainly going to be based on how effective their boxing is. But without further ado, let's get into actual rankings. And at number 8, I'm gonna have Merab Dvalishvili. And I know Merab fans are gonna be like, he did well on the feud against Cejudo and Yan. And yeah, that's true, but that's primarily due to the takedown threat of Merab and his opponents gassing out from all the takedowns, aka factors that have nothing to do with boxing. And I just think there's literally nothing to his boxing. He's not fast, he's not powerful, he doesn't have good technique, and his defense isn't good either. In fact, when it comes to striking in general, he's just straight up bad. But that's okay, because that's not what his style is. His style is marabbing, which is just constantly shooting takedowns and kneeing people's thighs. But anyways, props to him for winning the belt and proving me wrong. Now moving on to number 7, I have Alexander Pantoja, and it's gonna be kind of the same here. Pantoja is mainly a grappler who uses his boxing to set up takedowns and all that, and when he does find success with his boxing, it's mainly due to the takedown threat and because he keeps a very high pace. His technique isn't very good, he isn't super powerful either, but one thing he is very aggressive on the feet. He basically runs into range and throws punches, which does catch a lot of people off guard, and that way he is actually able to find success with his boxing. Enough to put him above Merab in my opinion. Now moving on to number 6, I have Jon Jones. You guys know how I feel about Jon Jones. Jon Jones has some really trash boxing, I can't lie. For someone who's supposed to be the greatest of all time at least. The guy's never dropped anyone with a punch ever in his career. Like, it's horrible stuff, man. His striking is definitely more centered around kicks, knees and elbows. But for some reason, he just sucks at boxing. Which is a big waste, to be honest, considering how long his arms are. Which is one of the only things that made me put him higher than Merab and Pantoja. He has long arms, so it does allow him to land straight punches from a longer distance. His longer reach also allows him to use the legendary eye poke defense that he's been using throughout his career, and when it comes down to technique, he isn't absolutely horrible. He does have decent straight punches, but it's just that his boxing overall is pretty trash. Now moving on to number 5, I have Belal Muhammad, and Belal actually has some really solid boxing. I know we joke about his coach saying he had hands like Canelo, but his boxing is actually very effective. Now Belal is mainly a grappler, but in the stand-up his main weapon is his hands, and he has very nice hand speed and volume. Now his power is basically non-existent, but that's okay because Belal throws punches at the same rate Merab fails takedowns. Basically he throws a lot, and since his hands are so fast he's able to put together a lot of combinations in order to overwhelm his opponents. A perfect example of this is the Leon Edwards fight. Another impressive thing is that his technique is very good, which is rare to see from grapplers, as they often lean towards a brawling style of striking, but besides that, the only thing I can criticize is the takedown threat being a big reason to why his boxing is even effective in the first place. And if it comes down to pure boxing, I don't think he is as good as the other people above him. Now at number 4, I have DDP, and I know what you're thinking. How can you put this guy above Belal? He fights like a caveman. But that's what makes him so good. DDP is him when it comes to fighting like a caveman. He relies completely on his physique, and this shows in his boxing too. Even though he's definitely not the best technician or has the fastest hands, he's so unorthodox, he just makes it work. He usually keeps a very high pace and throws a lot of big meaty hooks. We miss you, Lucas Tracy. And it also helps that he has insane power, truly making him into a caveman that just hits hard. And we also have to take a look at the fact that this dude dropped Whitaker with a southpaw jab, did very well against Strickland in their fight, and a lot of people say DDP won because of the takedowns, but I think the takedowns played a very minor role. He mainly won because he landed some really big shots on Strickland, which is very impressive considering Strickland is one of the best boxers at middleweight and definitely has some of the best defense in the UFC. And DDP also dropped Adesanya badly in their fight, and those three are some of the best strikers the middleweight division has ever seen. So I think that's what solidifies his spot over all of the champions who are ranked below him. However, I will say that his defense is very bad. He does get hit a lot, which isn't very good. And he does rely on the takedown threat to some degree, but not to the same level as Merab or Bilal does. Now at number 3 I have Islam Makhachev, and I don't think people are going to disagree with me here. Makhachev showed us that he has some really good boxing in his last fight. Like, we knew he was a good striker, but he was able to stand up and basically trade punches with Poirier, who you very well can argue is one of the best boxers in the division. I think Holloway is better, but regardless, it's still a very impressive performance, and Makhachev also put hands on Oliveira in their fight. Oliveira had no answer for Makhachev's speed, which is quite uncommon considering Makhachev is so big for the division. Bigger guys are often a little bit slower, but Makhachev proved otherwise, and besides his speed, he's just very technically sound. You can tell he has a great mastery and understanding of the basics. He also has pretty decent power and precision. But I will say though that his striking is in general very reliant on the takedown threat. Now would I still say he's one of the best boxers in the division? Absolutely, but to act like the takedown threat has no effect on his opponents is like living in Peaches and Creamville. R.I.P. Lucas Tracy. But regardless, he's a very good boxer. Now at number 2 I have Alex Pereira, and this guy has some next level hands. Now Pereira's boxing is basically all offense, and offensively he's a beast, man. His power is crazy, especially in his left hook. But Pereira isn't just a dumb guy who punches hard. He's also very calculated and good at setting up powerful punches like his left hook, which I think is a very underrated part of his game. And defensively, he isn't the best. He gets tagged a decent amount, but he's very good at rolling with punches, which takes away a lot of the power. And he has a good chin too, especially at light heavyweight, so it isn't really a huge deal for him. And a lot of people don't know this, but he did start out with boxing, and I actually think he had some amateur fights before he moved on to kickboxing, and he actually started training kickboxing fairly late in his career, at the age of 21 I think, so his boxing background certainly showed in his kickboxing. One of his opponents, I think it was Jason Wilness, even said that Pereira was just a boxer doing kickboxing. Which of course is incorrect, because Pereira is literally one of the best kickboxers of all time. But at the time, Pereira wasn't double glory champ, and it was just some basic trash talk to promote the fight. I also want to reference the fact that there's a bunch of footage of them out there sparring with some really good boxers and performing very well. I even think that Pereira sometimes trains with that Chinese dude who knocked out Deontay Wilder, and helps him prepare for his boxing fights. Now when it comes to number 1, I of course have Ilia Topuria, and I just think when it comes to boxing, he's just on another level. Now aside from his Volk win, his wins aren't as impressive as Pereira's wins. But when it comes to actual boxing skills, I think Topuria is above him. Topuria's whole style is basically centered around boxing, while Pereira uses a lot of kicks as well, which isn't bad, but in terms of boxing, I think Topuria's style is more impressive. His boxing is also very well rounded. As I said before, Pereira is all offense, no defense, but Topuria is very good in every aspect. His offense is also very good, and he also has very good defense. Topuria is also very powerful. If he catches you clean, he's definitely hurting you. And it's really interesting to see him switch between a high guard and a Philly shell, because the Philly shell is very rare to see in MMA. The only other guy I can think of that uses it off the top of my head is Strickland. And another thing that makes Topuria's boxing so good is that he's just so technical as well. He doesn't load up on shots, and he throws with almost zero telegraph. This allows him to string together good combinations, as it's harder for his opponents to find counters. And speaking of counters, Topuria is also a master at those. A really good one he has is when he slips to the inside of a jab and comes over with a right hand. And he's also so calm and collected on the feet. He's similar to Petr Yan in the way that he downloads data. Early in the fight, he tends to watch his opponent and try to make reads that he can take advantage of later in the fight. Like, I think he waited an entire minute to throw something against Volk, and after 1 minute, he was just stalking him down and putting hands on him. He also has a very good jab that we saw him put to good use against Josh Emmett. And I honestly can't find anything in his boxing that I can criticize him on. So I think that's it for today, guys. Go check out my video where I made a list of the best boxers in every division. But anyways, thanks for watching, subscribe, leave a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And share this to every MMA fan you know. And I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.